Hi, students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you live from beautiful Budapest. I hope everybody is having a healthy and strong start to their weekend. Welcome, members Angelina, Maksud, Natalie, Nazir. Good to see all of you here. Students, in this class, we are looking at speaking part 3. We will be practicing questions and answers. And I'll give you some strategies on how to handle some tough questions. Nice to see our regular students, Flower, Sun, Kyber, Murasa in the class. Students, this class is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Please check us out there. And for the general version of the exam, please do visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of these websites, we have lots and lots of great materials for you. I'm just going to quickly show you those and show you where you can practice speaking for free with other students. So I'm going to darken up the screen here a little bit so you can see our website more clearly. So when you're at the website here and you have your My Student account up at the top there, you log in with your email and your password, of course, and then you have access to our computer-based practice exams for the IELTS. You have your full online academic course that's interactive. You have 6 practice exams. You have over 100 hours of video lessons. Each one of these opens up into lots more sections. Of course, you can use it on your phone, tablet, PC. And then off to the right of the page, you find the Task 1, Task 2 writing help for the editing. And then here you have this new feature called the Student Partner Speaking. And the Student Partner Speaking, when you click that, you will be asked to accept our policy that you're going to behave and be nice with other students. So you accept that, and then once you do, you'll be redirected to a page which basically gives you the same kind of options as Skype. So here you see Zaid and Bekjan, who are waiting for people to practice their IELTS speaking with them. And then, of course, you can use audio, video and audio, or text only. So you'll usually find some students in here looking to practice, and then you'll also find speaking questions in here that are separated to objects, people, places, events, and ideas. So make sure to use those. So Bekjan says, yeah, it's me in there. Thanks, Bekjan, for stepping in and showing how that works. So students, make sure to use that. For the general IELTS, it's the green background, gieltshelp.com, and it has the same feature when you step in. Okay, I'm going to brighten up our day here a little bit so you can see me a little bit more. Of course, the websites are designed for the web, so they're brighter. These classes, we're using a projection, so it's darker. Keep that in mind. But anyway, that's speaking, and the speaking is absolutely free, okay? So you can use that for free. Keep the page open and wait for somebody to call you or contact you, and you will be able to see that because you'll get a notification that somebody is trying to contact you for speaking. Okay, everybody clear on that? I know lots of students are using that. We keep encouraging people to use it, so there's always somebody in there looking for IELTS speaking partners, okay? And it's free. You don't have to buy the course or anything. You can just sign up for the free demo version of the course, and you can access a lot of features, including that speaking feature. Yeah, and then if you want, you can, of course, book practice exams with me and with other experts as well, okay? So that's for you to use for free, okay? No tricks, no gimmicks, absolutely free. We want you to improve and practice with other students. All right, students, so if you have questions, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com, and I will be happy to answer any questions for you. Of course, this is the last class for this week, the speaking part 3, where everybody can join in on the chat. And then next week, starting from Wednesday, lots more live IELTS classes for you again. Now, let's get to our speaking part 3 questions. So speaking part 3 follows from part 2, the cue card, okay? For those of you who are new to IELTS, the speaking is a 12 to 15 minute interview. It has 3 parts. Part 1, about 5 minutes, 6-7 questions, general, simple topic about hobbies, sports, music. Then part 2 will be a cue card. The cue card is a card with a few questions on a specific topic, either an object, a person, a place, an event, or an idea. That's why you saw those topics in our speaking portal. Then, when you're finished the cue card, you have to talk for 2 minutes continuously, explaining your answer on those questions. Then after that will come some more questions in part 3 that are specific to part 2. So you have to do a really good job on part 2 so that part 3 can be connected to part 2, and you can go into lots and lots of details. Yes, Shaikh Fazil, part 3 depends on part 2. It's connected there. Okay? All right. Student HL, I'm happy about that feedback. Okay, so the examiner will say that is the end of part 2. Now I'm going to take back the card with the questions, the pencil, the note paper, and we will continue with part 3. For part 3, I will ask you some more questions related to the topic of part 2. Let's talk about effective learning. And students, if you think I'm talking fast, don't be surprised. The examiner will speak at the same speed. This is not an ESL lesson or class at the IELTS. It's an English language testing system. They use their natural diction, their natural speed. If you're lucky, you might have an examiner who naturally speaks a little bit slower. If you're unlucky, you could get an examiner who speaks quite fast, okay? If you're somewhere in the middle, you'll get someone like me that speaks an average pace of a native speaker, something like that, okay? So that's just the luck of the draw, but they do not hold back. They do not change their speed to assist you. They shouldn't. They're instructed not to, okay? All right, Maksud saying, can I make the letters bigger? I sure can, Maksud. Here we go. So let's just kick it off with the first 1 or 2 questions to warm up, and then we'll get into some more strategy. So let's talk about effective learning. What are some steps to improve the efficiency of learning for school subjects? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this question, and I will look at a couple and give you some feedback, okay? So again, what are some steps to improve the efficiency of learning for school subjects? Roshni, our member, says, well, for sure, there are a variety of ways to learn school subjects effectively. First, gaining knowledge of the basics on the subjects and building blocks, which help to increase the learner capacity. Secondly, okay, Roshni, good. I see you keep going there. Make sure you don't go off topic. That's good. Students, viewers, make sure you're repeating as much as possible, okay? This is a speaking class, so speak and repeat. Speak and repeat as much as possible. All right, Kyber says, well, I believe that not only theory classes, but doing also the practical activities for physical science subjects like chemistry and biology is vital in order to develop coherence of learning in learning centers. Like in my school, recently the lab has been created for non-theoretical classes, which can improve lesson efficiency. Okay, all right. Murasa says, important strategies which come to mind right now is teaching school subjects by relating topics with daily life. Like if the topic is global warming, then giving the example of not using vehicles for short distances. Murasa, that's really nice. So making a connection between the ideas taught in school to real life events. That's a great idea, okay? Flower Sun says, studying effectively for school subjects, students should divide their time in small part to have time to learn and relax and focus on the accurate information which is relative to the lesson. Nice vocabulary, students. Some good answers there. Those are some nice high band answers. Remember, answer, explain, example. Okay? That's what you're going for here. Answer, explain, example. Bekjan says, well, there are a lot of ways to increase the quality of teaching at schools that have been implemented around the world, and the most popular ones are giving less homework and fewer subjects. Okay, I'm not sure, Bekjan, how those are steps to improve the efficiency of learning, but if you explain it further, perhaps. Okay. Elena says, I think presentations, whether it is digital or traditional, play an important role in learning. Visualization is always better than theoretical concept. Other than that, practical classes and props are other key concepts for effective learning. Sure, okay, so I think a few steps to enhancing the effectiveness of student learning in educational institutions is to not only relate the information taught in subjects, make it a little bit smaller here so we're not jumping around, taught in subjects such as chemistry and biology to real world contexts, but also to incorporate the students into the lesson by having them work in groups and do presentations in the class. I remember having to do such an effective project with two classmates about emus, birds that live in Australia, in grade 4. All right. Thankfully, I must say that the Canadian education system is quite involved when it comes to effective learning, and there are lots of group projects from a very early age and doing presentations. So here is my answer, and you'll notice that my answer is somewhat akin, meaning similar, to many of your answers. I'm focusing on giving the answer, giving some form of explanation, and an example, okay? So repeat after me. What are some steps to improve the efficiency of learning for school subjects? I think a few steps to enhancing the effectiveness of student learning in educational institutions is not only relating the information taught in subjects such as chemistry and biology to real-world contexts, but also to incorporate the students into the lesson by having them work in groups and do presentations in the class. I remember having to do such an effective project with two classmates about emus, birds that live in Australia, in grade 4. Okay, very visual, right? It's fluent. Don't go off topic. Don't just keep talking. Make sure you put an end to your sentence. Make sure you stay fluent. Visualize, okay? I thought about, hey, what did I do in school that helped me to learn effectively? And a lot of ideas came to mind, but I just picked one focused on it and explained it clearly using visualization. All right, now we get a follow-up question in part 3 often. So most questions, you will have the primary question that we just answered, and then you'll have the secondary question. So which of these is the most important to do and why? So clearly you need to have at least 2 points for the previous question. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck here, or you have to give additional points at this stage. Okay, so which of these is the most important and why? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. Now here, of course, the explanation is very important because of the why question. Pay careful attention to that, okay? Alex says, well, for the past couple of years, modern schools are using classroom projectors, computers, and some well-established schools use robots in the 21st century. Okay, Alex, that's for the previous question, I think. Seni Surani says, improving the quality of the teachers is the most essential step in order to develop the students further. The more developed the teachers, the more developed the teaching quality. Okay, Seni, good ideas. Little bit of grammatical correction there. Okay, so pay attention to those corrections. You can note the time. It's at 16.5 minutes. You can come back to the video later and check how I corrected your grammar and language to be more natural. Okay, that's for other students as well. Whenever I'm reflecting on your answer, take note of the time, maybe quickly write it down somewhere, and then you know what time you can click back to in the video so that you can improve and repeat. Okay, it's very useful. It's an effective teaching strategy. Elena says, introducing props means some physical objects to teach children, and this is the most effective for them. This is the reason some schools introduce pegs and marbles in pre-nursery schools to teach various kinds of mathematical operations like addition and subtraction. Very good, Elena. Elena, finish with addition and subtraction, not etc. Okay, we don't use etc. in verbal communication. It's just awkward. It's like, what? What etc.? So just finish the idea and wait for the next question. Okay? Etc. is always true. We can always talk more about a topic or about an answer. All right? Andy Mauliana says, focus group discussions might be a great one to do because students can share their ideas with each other and they may receive much more information from sources. Certainly, I've found that information I learn from peers is more effective than the information I learn from teachers. So a little bit more there, Andy, but it's good. So information learning from peers within schools. Yeah, within the group projects, sure. Saswati says, as I mentioned earlier, answering section, it's pretty convenient for effective learning. It creates interest among students to learn the subject properly. For instance, nowadays, I overcome my English phobia with the guidance of Adrian. Thank you, Saswati. Saswati, the beginning of your answer is a bit awkward. Review that. I'm not exactly sure what you're expressing by those first 2 lines. So take a look at that. Pooja says, I believe working in groups is the most effective method of incorporating both knowledge and team spirit. In fact, group brainstorming is considered very useful in absorbing school studies. Really nice, Pooja. So Pooja, you're going off of this answer, which is great. And you're following up nicely, making a strong connection. That's really good. Okay. So I definitely think that group work is the most effective step to acquiring information effectively and long term. As humans, are social by nature. Therefore, this style of learning is extremely well suited for young learners. That's why I still remember my EMU project and many biological details about this bird 30 years later. All right. So there's my answer. And again, make connections as much as possible. So visualize and make connections. Now I'm going to discuss a little bit of strategy of how you can answer challenging questions, okay? So before we do that, just speak and repeat. If you feel strong and confident in your English, try to repeat without reading, okay? Just listen to my voice. Don't look at the screen and repeat as you hear what I'm saying. So which of these is the most important to do and why? I definitely think that group work is the most effective step to acquiring information effectively and long term, as humans are social by nature. Therefore, this style of learning is extremely well suited for young students. That's why I still remember my EMU project and many biological details about this bird 30 years later. It's also better to just repeat me because then I catch my typo mistakes as I'm reiterating. Okay, so students, difficult questions, what can you do? Okay. Let me give you a few strategies. So here the question is, what can I do if I get a difficult question in part 3? All right. Here are some tips. And these are somewhat sequential, so think about these in this order. Okay, so number 1, remember that part 3 is connected to part 2. So the question you are asked is in some way the same subject as your answer in part 2. Okay, so here we're talking about effective learning. Okay, we're talking about effective learning. So actually, I don't think anybody has seen this part 2 question yet. By looking at this topic, let's talk about effective learning. What do you think your part 2 might have been? And this is why I decided to do it this way. So what do you think part 2 cue card might have been about if here we're talking about effective learning? What would be your guess? Okay, so it's kind of an inverse or reverse way of thinking about this, speaking interview is guess what part 2 is about based on the part 3 questions. Okay. Yeah, so Ratesh says something about education for sure. Bekjan says something about student teaching. Intelligent person, Kyber, probably not. It's probably a little bit too far. Closer, like... something like that. Okay. Maybe it's not actually that, but it's very close. So something like that. So discuss a learning aid or a learning tool that you use to study. Okay. It's probably an idea that's similar to that. Natalie, favorite subject? That would not be accurate enough. The connection between part 2 and part 3 is quite strong. Okay. And this is why I'm telling you that don't panic if you don't understand a question in part 3 right away, because the connections are really strong between part 2 and part 3. So you just have to think a little bit. Okay? You just have to think a little bit. Okay? Shaikh, daily activities would be way off. Okay? It's way too general. Part 2 questions are much more specific than that. All right? Okay, so that's the first, okay? So if you get some difficult questions, don't panic. Think, ooh, what could this be in connection to part 2, right? So what could this question be in connection to part 2? Okay, second step is ask for a repeat, okay? It's okay to do that in part 3. Examiners know that some students are nervous. Even band 9, band 8 people have test anxiety. So if you ask for a question to be repeated, it's not the end of the world. Examiners can kind of feel if a student has no idea what the question is, or is maybe not catching the question the first time because they're nervous, they're a little bit lost, okay? So it's okay to do that, okay? So keep this in mind. It is okay to ask the examiner to repeat the question once or twice throughout the interview, okay? Do not, okay, ask each question or every second question to be repeated. That's bad. Okay, let's put that in brackets. So what I'm saying here is that you can use a phrase like, I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous, I didn't quite catch what you just asked me. Would you mind repeating this question? Or you might say something like, I'm pretty sure I know what you're asking. And if this is the case, then definitely use it, okay? Don't just give an answer without being 90% sure about the question. It's really bad to go off topic and just say any answer. That's really bad, okay? You will definitely lose marks if they ask you a question and you start talking about something completely else. If they ask you about dogs and you start talking about race cars, you are losing marks, okay? Shaikh's asking, can we ask to change the question? I will talk about that, Shaikh. Just give me one moment, okay? So here's another expression that you can use, okay? You can say, I'm pretty sure I know what you're asking, but just to be on the safe side, would you mind repeating the question? Okay, so if you're asking for a couple of repeats, you should use different expressions. Okay, so it's okay to do that. Just repeat after me. So, I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous and I didn't quite catch what you just asked me. Would you mind repeating this question? Okay, or I'm pretty sure I know what you're asking me, but just to be on the safe side, would you mind repeating the question? Would you mind asking me again? Let's do a little bit more paraphrasing. Okay, do that if you are less than, so do this if you are less than 85% sure about the question. Okay, this is just a tip here, students. Do not give answers when you do not understand the question. Because A, you will lose marks. B, you will take time from other questions that you can answer. Okay, that's always the big one. Now, fortunately, the examiners help you a little bit because they interrupt you. So sometimes students get a little bit upset when the examiner interrupts them. So the examiner just asks the next question and interrupts them. And students are like, that's so mean, that's so bad. But actually, they're helping you because probably what you are doing is talking about a different answer. You're going off topic. They're interrupting you because they want to ask you another question that hopefully you can answer better. If they just let you talk and talk and talk and you're off topic, talking about some completely other idea, and your time is ticking, and they don't interrupt you, that's worse. So if the examiner is interrupting you in part 3, don't take it personally. Don't be like, oh, this examiner is so mean, and I paid so much money. No, they're trying to get you to stop because there's something wrong with your answer and go to the next one. So in that case, just stop. Don't freak out. Don't stress. Wait for the next question. Focus on it, line it up for your next answer, okay? That clear? It's an important one. All right. Yeah, Angelina, it's either that they got the answer and that you're going off topic or that you're completely off topic. Okay? Sarav Deep, yeah, you can absolutely ask the examiner for a moment. Okay, so I'm going to get to that as well. All right. So here's another step. Okay, let's do a little bit more here, and then we'll get to practicing more questions, I promise you. So the next step here is if you are absolutely unsure of what the examiner is asking, request to move to the next question. Just say, I'm sorry, but either the grammar or some words, let me make it simpler for you, okay? I'm sorry, but I'm not exactly sure what you are asking, and rather than giving a strange response, could we just move to the next question? Okay, so even with this type of communication, sound fluent. It's okay to do that. In fact, some examiners will appreciate that. They'll definitely appreciate it more than if you're just going and going and going off topic. Now, don't do that for every question, okay? That's really bad. So give it 120% to try to understand the question, all right? But if you really don't, then go there, okay? It's also okay to buy time. It's totally okay. This is what the student was just asking. So it's totally okay to buy time. Just do it naturally, okay? Don't sound like a robot that memorized these kinds of sentences. So say something like, please allow me a moment to think of a good answer. Okay, so you can ask for time. It's totally okay. Or you can buy time by paraphrasing part of the question. Okay, so for example, what are some steps to improve the efficiency of learning? I think a few steps to enhance the effectiveness of student learning. So in fact, all of this part here is really just paraphrasing the question in my answer. And by doing that, I'm buying myself a little bit of time to think and visualize of, okay, what are some steps to effective learning? Okay. All right. So that will also work. All right, let me throw in one more tip here, our fifth and final point before we go on to some more questions here. Okay, most importantly, when you are working hard to decipher the question. Decipher kind of means like decode, okay? It's a synonym. Okay, the question, focus on the subject and the verb mostly. Okay, so subject nouns, sorry. Let's put nouns in there. So subject noun or subject nouns and the verb, the action verbs. So focus on the nouns and the verbs, not so much on the qualifying words, because you can figure those out. The adverbs, adjectives, you can probably figure those out once you think of part 2 and you catch the nouns and the verbs, okay? All right. Kusha, I'm not sure what your question is there. I will say fourth line. I'm not sure what fourth line is, what you mean by that, okay? A.R. Varun says, I think it is not the academic exam that one has to 100% to answer what is asked. It's a language test. We can request to move to the next instance of a short idea to answer it. I'm not exactly sure, Varun, what you mean by that. The academic in general speaking, it's the same exam, okay? And you can ask to move to the next question a couple of times. It's absolutely okay. All right. Okay, students, so those are just some tips. I'll give you some more if we have some time, for sure. Those are 5 quick tips on how you can approach these more challenging questions. Again, think of your part 2. Here we go. Let's cover some more questions. Again, focus on answer, explanation, example, and be sure to use your complex grammar as much as possible. Here is the next question. What teaching aids have been used by schools over the past couple of decades to improve students' learning? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. I can tell some of you are loading your questions beforehand. Beckjohn says, for the past 20 years, teaching aids such as overhead projectors, computers, and colorful images have been applied by school authorities. These learning materials have shown great outcomes in many institutes, just like when I was taught by computers. Okay, good, Beckjohn. I like it. You're reflecting the present perfect, and that's great. And you're using the passive form of present perfect, the have been used, and that's really nice. Abhishek says, in my opinion, digital services are used a significant amount of time. Not only does it help to give people or students virtual assistance from experts, but also a clear explanation through graphs and figures. Abhishek, don't use you. Okay, be more specific with your subject, students, pupils, learners, okay? Lots of other ways to paraphrase. And reflect the present perfect here. The present perfect is very important. All right. Pachu Yadav says, well, teaching aids like computers using the internet, group discussion, and presentations have been used by schools over the past 20 years to improve student learning. Pachu, computers and the internet, it's good. Discussions and presentations, that's a teaching technique, not so much a teaching aid. Teaching aid would be something more physical in this context, okay? So there have been several technological advancements in teaching tools over the past 20 years, especially with the use of overhead projectors and computers, as well as the internet. that allow pupils fast and expansive access to large volumes of up-to-date information. I know my cousin is using these in her classes on a daily basis. All right. So, students, pay attention to the grammar of the question. What teaching aids have been used? Have been used is, of course, present perfect in the passive voice by schools over the past couple of decades. Couple of decades, meaning 20 years. A decade is 10 years, to improve student learning. Again, answer, explain, example. Okay, so repeat after me. There have been several technological advancements in teaching tools over the past 20 years, especially the use of overhead projectors and computers, as well as the internet, that allow pupils fast and expansive access to large volumes of up-to-date information. I know my cousin is using these in her classes on a daily basis. Okay. All right. Rajveer Singh says, educational institutions have been using a wide range of resources in the last 20 years to improve the effectiveness of study in schools. Rajveer, educational institutions in your sentence is the active agent, so it's an active sentence. So to correct it, you need to change your verb used to the progressive using, okay? Such as they are using the internet and computerized gadgets like printers and projectors to visually present the information clearly. Okay, good. All right, Sarav Deep Singh says, smart classes have been a great change, especially the children are now asked to make slides on several topics with PowerPoint and present these on smart boards, replacing the old whiteboards of the past. Sarav Deep, great. Nice answer, okay. Musafir says, many technological advancements have been implemented in the last 20 years to improve the effectiveness of study in schools, like online classes and AI integration. In fact, my cousin is learning Spanish through an AI language teacher. Yeah, okay, good. All right. Yusuf Man says, all around the world they have been using blackboards and podiums in order to deliver a better understanding and increase the ability of students to enhance their knowledge. Yusuf, last 20 years, not last 150 years. I think in many parts of the world, blackboards and podiums have been around a long time. So software, hardware, gadgets that classes are using, it's going to be much more effective answer. You do have to be accurate, students, with your answer. You are being graded on coherence, okay, on coherence, all right? All right, Vijay says, computers have been introduced in education institutions over the past 2 decades, and smart classes are making learning easier and more enjoyable for students. Vijay, very nice. Notice those 2 corrections there. All right. Follow-up question, students. What new teaching aids may students see in the future? Give me a nice full sentence for this one. So what new teaching aids may students see in the future? Be creative. You don't have to say some completely unique or new idea. It doesn't have to be the next great invention. It just has to be believable. Okay? All right, Pooja says, I believe that the future holds a whole new revolution for teaching with more online classes and 3D virtual presentations. We'll see more digital learning and effective absorption among students. Very nice, Pooja. Very nice answer. I mean, hey, look at what we're doing right now. I'm teaching all of you from Budapest, and by the end of the year, I'll be teaching you from Victoria, Canada. I'll be there most likely by the end of 2020. Paya says, it's a tricky one. Please give me a moment to think. Inventions like automatic writing machines may be used in the near future. To be more precise, pupils may not need to write by themselves on paper. That's interesting. Paya, like dictation. You can kind of do that already, but it's a good idea. I like it. Beckjan says, in the future, I think there will be huge improvements in teaching aids as schools are mostly related to technologies like holograms. This enables people to see actual objects in front of them. Elena says, well, it's an interesting question. Allow me a moment to think. I think it would be 3D printers where students can make replicas of physical objects so that they can use their lab equipment at home. 3D printers for teaching. Brilliant, Elena. I like that idea. Amir Haghashinash says, I'm pretty sure that in the future, teaching will be done. Find you again. I just lost you there. Teaching will be done with augmented reality. One of my friends is working to implement this technique in his institution. Cool. Using some augmented reality. Okay, there's a lot of great ideas around this question, and I like how you're realizing that you can use the future here. Now, if you want to get really fancy, you can even incorporate some future present perfect in that. So I think that by 2050, there will have been a great replacement of human teachers by AI in virtual classrooms using both 3D printers and augmented reality to maximize learning for millions of students around the world. Perhaps students will be able to directly download information into their cybernetically enhanced minds. Ooh, I'm really getting sci-fi with you here on this question. Cybernetically. There we go. All right. Here we go, students. Repeat after me. Yeah, too bad we can't all just sit the IELTS exam together. Honestly, I'm using some of the information that you shared with me to give this answer here. Repeat after me. So, what new teaching aids may students see in the future? I think that by 2050, there will have been a great replacement of human teachers by AI in virtual classrooms using both 3D printers and augmented reality to maximize learning for millions of students around the globe. Perhaps students will be able to directly download information into their cybernetically enhanced minds. I bet you can guess that I like my sci-fi genre of books and movies. Okay. Sarav Deep, augmented means changed a little bit, manipulated reality. So the example is the augmented Google glasses, where you're looking at an object and you're buying it through the glasses at the same time. So shifting or changing reality. Augment. Augment means to mold, shift, change. Okay. All right, students, I'm going to stop there for today. We've got lots more questions, but little time. So I'm going to leave these questions for you to practice on your own over the weekend. You can send your answers to me by MP3 recording, and I will gladly give you a score estimate on your speaking. Just record it on your phone or mobile in MP3. MP3, convert it. You might need to convert it, and then send it to my email. Here are the questions. Some people believe that focusing on effective learning is more important than studying hard. Is this true? Why or why not? Let's talk about successful ideas. What is required for ideas to become not only reality, but also successful? What can people do to achieve these steps? Where is it common to observe successful ideas in society these days? Can you elaborate and give examples? All right, that is the end of today's Speaking Part 3 class. Again, don't panic for tough questions. Remember, the question is connected to Part 3. Ask for a repeat, okay? Ask for a repeat. Students, have an awesome rest of your Saturday, and I will see you again on Wednesday. So Wednesday, same time, we'll continue with Speaking Part 1. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy. Much love to all of you from the heart of Europe, Budapest. Remember to check out aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com. Bye for now.